SCP-6713. Due to the immense size of SCP-6713-A and SCP-6713-B, and their extreme distance relative to Earth, physical containment of both anomalies is unfeasible for the Foundation with present levels of technology. Despite this, Foundation agents embedded with NASA and other mainstream scientific organizations have successfully prevented information related to SCP-6713 from being disseminated to the wider public, either by intercepting or modifying images taken by various space telescopes, or seizing control of existing astronomical observatories. Update: July 10th, 2022. Following incidents 6713-A, aka Operation Blind Spot, and 6713-A2, aka the Pointer Recurrence Event, the monitoring of SCP-6713-A by ground and space telescopes was suspended indefinitely, as doing so is no longer desirable nor necessary. In the wake of these developments, the deployment of the strengthened reality anchors by the Foundation unmanned spacecraft onto the surface of SCP-6713-B in order to stabilize the anomaly's fluctuating heme levels, reduce the likelihood of Boltzmann events, and avert a CK-class reality restructuring scenario, is currently being considered for approval by the O5 Council under Phase 2 of the Project Heaven Piercer. However, the sheer size of SCP-6713-B, the cost of producing a quantity of reality anchors sufficient enough to affect SCP-6713-B, debates regarding the effectiveness of such a procedure after the events of Phase 1, and fears over its unintended consequences may have prevented any concrete plan for being fully realized or put into action. Despite this, exploration attempts on a smaller scale have been made using similar tools in the past. In the event Phase 2 of Project Heaven Piercer fails to prevent SCP-6713 from devouring our region of space, the Foundation is in the process of developing a contingency plan aimed at accelerating human technological progress to enable extra-universal colonization under project name Diaspora. This plan is also pending for review and approval. SCP-6713 is the designation for two separate anomalies located 500 million light-years away from the Milky Way in the center of the KBC supervoid, named SCP-6713-A and SCP-6713-B, respectively. SCP-6713-A is a spherical region of unstable vacuum spreading out in all directions from its point of origin at faster-than-light speeds, destroying everything it comes in contact with. Within this volatile bubble of space-time, the laws of probability, physics, and quantum mechanics are constantly altered to the extent that highly improbable, stochastic, random events are made probable or commonplace, as opposed to our more stable baseline reality outside the bubble. This causes a vacuum to continuously, spontaneously, and unpredictably manufacture realities with random parameters and configurations assigned to them that greatly differ from the parameters which make our baseline reality possible. SCP-6713-B is the ruins of a gargantuan artificial megastructure of extraterrestrial origin, approximately 12 astronomical units in diameter, located at the center of SCP-6713-A. It resembles a large, transparent Matryoshka brain processing artificial intelligence capabilities. It appears to function as both an ontokinetic and aleatokinetic device and a particle accelerator. 11 progressively smaller, rotating dodecahedral concentric shells are nested within the anomaly's outer dodecahedral shell, 5 of which have been greatly damaged, and whose fragments formed a large toroidal acceleration disk orbiting the megastructure. Numerous inscriptions similar to those used by the Ordothon religion have been spotted engraved into these sites, faces and legends of SCP-6713-B, though their relationship to the aforementioned religion remains ambiguous. At the center of the megastructure lies a primordial binary black hole system with constituent black holes have been forced into a barycentric orbit, causing both celestial bodies to orbit extremely close to one another, but without colliding. In the Lagrange point situated between both black holes is likely the source of SCP-6713-A, a true vacuum generated by the decay of metastable false vacuum from unpredictable yet artificial changes to the energy levels in the Higgs boson. SCP-6713 was first discovered on August 7, 2017 by astronomers at the Keck Observatory in Mauna Lea, Hawaii, following the sudden detection of large amounts of matter near the inner bounds of the vacuum. Foundation personnel embedded within the observatory soon seized control of the facility before administering amnestics to the staff stationed there and laying them off. Researchers later determined that a normally extremely improbable fluctuation of trillions of quantum particles was responsible for the detection of matter in SCP-6713-A, causing the particles to spontaneously configure into a large star cluster named the Boltzmann cluster. The Foundation continued to observe the cluster until it randomly vanished from existence a mere 10 days later after its creation. Since SCP-6713's discovery, the Foundation has registered 13,120 different anomalous Boltzmann events, occurring within its interior, ranging from very minor to these involving alterations to standard hume levels on a cosmic scale. An abridged summary of some of the most significant Boltzmann events is listed below. On March 17, 2018, for a period of about 15 minutes, a second star cluster composed of 5,000 supergiant stars is observed spontaneously pop into existence before each star goes supernova. The event attracted the attention of the mainstream scientific community due to its statistical rarity. But Foundation agents successfully ran a disinformation campaign explaining that these novas were actually flares or alternatively a product of sheer coincidence. On May 13, 2018, for a period of approximately 2 months, Foundation telescopes detected a drastic, abrupt shift in the ambient temperature of SCP-6713-A from its initial temperature of 1,000 degrees Kelvin to near absolute 0 Kelvin in less than a second. The vacuum immediately collapses into a Bose-Einstein condensate, resulting in an ultra-cold liquid universe full of hydrogen and helium in states resembling supercritical fluids. No stars or planets are visible. On July 25, 2018, for a period of about 7.5 days, SCP-6713-A's ambient temperature drastically changes again, increasing from almost 0 to 100 sextillion Kelvin in exactly 4 minutes. This causes SCP-6713-A's interior to transform into a ultra-dense, ultra-hot quark-gluon plasma, inhospitable to life. Following SCP-6713-A's transition to this state, it slowly cooled back to a state more conducive to the formation of planets, stars, and galaxies. On April 30, 2019, for a period of about 3 weeks, various pockets of space-time in SCP-6713-A experienced chaotic and unpredictable fluctuations in the strength of the strong nuclear force, ranging from being several times weaker than in our universe to being hundreds of times stronger. Galaxies, black holes, solar systems, planets, and atoms spontaneously disintegrate, then evaporate into subatomic particles in some areas, while in others they all collapse into high-energy singularities of infinite mass before imploding. SCP-6713-A remains dark for months following this event. On November 23, 2019, for a period of about 8 hours, SCP-6713-A spontaneously filled with liquid water, following a rapid increase in the vacuum amount of free hydrogen and oxygen atoms, and the disappearance of helium from its periodic table. This newly formed cosmic ocean, also known as the Boltzmann Sea, acts as a fertile breeding ground for massive universe-spanning aquatic ecosystems, whose life signs are immediately detected by researchers. Bioluminescent cnidarian organisms of varying sizes glow brightly in the darkness in the place of stars and galaxies, while planets become inverted pockets of air sealed tight by the water pressure of the sea surrounding them, or home to large stellar reefs or large planet crabs that utilize planets and moons as shells. Space is teeming with leviathans and other enormous aquatic entities, often several astronomical units or light years in length. Quantum tunneling soon destroys this rich environment, however. A rapid change in gravity causes all life forms to be stretched into oblivion. Researchers noted that this manifestation of SCP-6713-A appeared to exhibit extreme time dilation, to the extent that subjective perception of time diverged radically between observers outside the bubble versus hypothetical subjects inside the bubble. Dr. Reed has theorized that every hour within our universe was the equivalent of 1 billion years within SCP-6713-A before its inevitable destruction, citing the length of time it would be expected to take for life to form into singularity in the similarly suitable cosmos. Interestingly, researchers also observed that some of the bioluminescent life forms present in the iteration of SCP-6713-A appeared to be flickering their lights on and off at non-random intervals, suggesting that they may, in fact, have been using the form of Morse code in an attempt to communicate with our universe. Starting on June 8, 2020, for a period of about 1 day, the force of gravity rapidly strengthens within the SCP-6713-A, overpowering dark energy and resulting in the collapse of the void. before the void rebounds into a new configuration full of not only degenerate matter, but also dozens of unknown heavy elements that are not present in our baseline's universe periodic table. Despite the exceptionally high atomic numbers and masses of these elements, due to conditions with the universe within this newly formed vacuum allowed them to remain much more stable than they normally would in our reality before disintegrating. Curiously, light remained with low atomic masses such as the hydrogen, helium, and lithium. They were extremely unstable in this iteration of SCP-6713. In contrast to our reality, where these elements tend to be unstable. In contrast to our reality, where heavy elements tend to be unstable. Notably, the elements detected in SCP-6713-A had atomic numbers ranging from 119 to 936. On October 21st, 2020, for a period of about 1 month and 4 days, 78% of all supermassive black holes in SCP-6713-A suddenly changed into white holes, causing billions of stars to be ejected from their orbits and the dissolution of several million galaxies. Many of the stars collide with one another, resulting in massive explosions that leave cosmic gas behind. The elemental composition of the void is then altered again, resulting in molecular clouds that form stars made of boron and xenon gas rather than hydrogen and gas. Eventually, the vacuum cools and darkens. On January 12, 2020, for a period of about 47 seconds, the colors orange, yellow, and blue cease to exist in the ultraviolet spectrum. 12% of all stars within SCP-6713-A inexplicably green shift, pink shift, or purple shift towards their respective colors, while another 25% turn into dead stars unable to release heat. All other stars stretch into or assume various non-spherical forms, turning into cubes, pyramids, flat two-dimensional pancakes, cylinders, or amoeboid amorphous shapes before being annihilated at random intervals. At least 130 galaxies and 50 star clusters were also observed assuming shapes resembling thaumaturgic symbols. On August 27, 2021, for about 13 seconds, 5 massive galaxy cluster-sized biological entities resembling giant cephalopods and bleeding randomly emerged in the northern hemisphere of SCP-6713-A before disappearing into a flash of light. After this event, SCP-6713-A's ratio of matter versus antimatter particles suddenly transitions from being asymmetrical to being perfectly symmetrical, causing the vacuum to once again collapse from the mutual annihilation of its particle-antiparticle pairs. On September 2, 2021, the fine structure constant within SCP-6713-A changes by a value of 4.7%, eliminating the presence of carbon within SCP-6713-A. 67% of all baryonic matter would then spontaneously switches to exotic matter, exhibiting properties such as negative mass, resulting in runaway self-accelerating motions between galaxies containing both baryonic and exotic matter, which proceed to grow at the exponential rate without end. Traces of silicon dioxide are detected within the intergalactic void, which spontaneously coalesce into asteroid fields seemingly capable of moving on their own or in defiance of gravity. This goes on for about 6 months. This configuration of SCP-6713-A later retroactively phased into a reality in which mass as a concept no longer existed, creating an empty void once again with no planet, stars, or life forms. On January 15, 2022, for a period of about 34 minutes, incident 6713-A1 occurs. A gargantuan galaxy cluster-sized replica of SCP-096 randomly emerges in the flash of light directly in the line of sight of the vast majority of the world's astronomical observatories and radio space telescopes, including the Hubble and James Webb telescopes. Foundation personnel stationed across the globe, including individuals embedded in various cybersecurity agencies and hacker groups, immediately initiate Operation Blind Spot, forcing a mass shutdown of all space camera systems, satellites, radio telescopes pointed towards SCP-096 to protect humanity from its cognitohazardous effects, while utilizing web crawlers to monitor the internet for any pictures of SCP-096 or put it online for deletion. No images are detected. In the hours and days following this event, Air Celeste Class A and Nessus are deployed by Foundation fighter jets over large population zones, and a cover-up story is disseminated across mass media blaming the aforementioned global shutdown on a moderately powerful coronal mass ejection CME from the Sun. The operation is a success. I knew SCP-6713 was capable of producing astronomically improbable events, but I never thought we'd be unlucky enough to see it create SCPs from nothing. What happened today was a damn close call, and could have resulted in a world-ending catastrophe had we not acted quickly enough. I propose we change SCP-6713's classification from Keter to Apollyon immediately. We need to do something about 6713 before it spawns something that could kill us all. A quote from Site Director Briggs in a conversation with O5 members. From September 7th, 2022 onwards, Incident 6713-A2, aka the Pointer Occurrence Event, occurs following the initiation of Phase 1 of Project Heaven Piercer and the discovery of SCP-6713-B. And Addendum 6713.01, Project Heaven Piercer. On January 16, 2022, all members of the O5 Council met for an emergency voting session following Incident 6713-A1, any successful Operation Blindspot. After a vote of 9-3 in favor of investigating SCP-6713, the Council authorized the initiation of Phase 1 of Project Heaven Piercer, the construction and launch of a large unmanned deep space exploration probe, also named SCPS Heaven Piercer, to counteract the chaotic environment of SCP-6713-A. It was decided the probe will be fitted with several strengthened reality anchors capable of generating a bubble of stable reality potent enough to allow the probe to feasibly traverse the boundary separating our universe from SCP-6713-A and travel to the source of the anomaly without being destroyed by random ontological alterations. It was also decided that the probe would contain indirect sensory equipment and specially designed cameras designed to automatically trigger the anti-cognito hazard program and shut off an event of a cognito hazardous boltzmann event, a wormhole drive to shorten the probe's distance to SCP-6713, and a trans-universal communication array to enable instantaneous contact between the Heaven Piercer and the Foundation while maintaining sublight speeds, utilizing similar processes as the aforementioned wormhole drive. A timeline outlining the event of Project Heaven Piercer can be viewed below. Begin Expedition Log. January 10th, 2022. Planning and construction of SCPS Heaven Piercer begins immediately. The process greatly accelerated through the usage of specialized artificial intelligence. Neither the public nor any world government nor front companies involved in transporting and assembling materials nor members of the Foundation below Level 5 clearance are notified of the project in its entirety, with disparate groups informed of only small aspects of the project in question. March 9th, 2022. SCPS Heaven Piercer is 99% complete. Preparations for its launch in Cape Canaveral, Florida have been made the following month. April 18th, 2022. 2:50 a.m. UTC. SCPS Heaven Piercer is launched into Earth's orbit without incident and remotely moved to the far side of the moon by Foundation Mission Control operatives. O5 Command watches the launch during the probe's rear-facing cameras and sees the Earth shrinking and disappearing as the probe approaches one orbit around the moon. At 2:58 a.m., SCPS Heaven Piercer activates its wormhole drive, creating a transversible wormhole Einstein-Rosen-Morris-Thorne bridge, allowing it to reach SCP-6713-A in just a few months, while still traveling at sublight speeds. The probe begins to glow after phasing through the wormhole and vanishing. Contact with probe is lost for the duration of the journey to SCP-6713-A, partly due to the newly created wormhole, and partly due to the relativistic effects brought by the vessel traveling at not only hundreds of millions of light years in distance, but hundreds of millions of light years back in time. June 11th, 2022 at 11:19 p.m. UTC, SCPS Heaven Piercer decelerates, arriving at its destination near SCP-6713-A. O5 Council members are notified of the probe's arrival and order the activation of the strengthened reality anchors. Space-time begins to bend around the probe before human levels of the developing pocket dimension encasing the probe stabilize into a state of equilibrium, enveloping the vessel within a bubble. The probe then moves towards the expanding vacuum in front of it, successfully passing through the boundary of ionized radiation separating our universe from SCP-6713-A without being annihilated. Contact is temporarily lost again with the probe as it enters a wormhole that will bring it within a few dozen light years of the center of SCP-6713-A. On June 24, 2022 at 8:30 p.m. UTC, Foundation reestablishes contact with SCPS Heaven Piercer after it emerges from the second wormhole jump, directing it to take measurements of the surrounding void and monitor its surrounding monitor its surroundings for Boltzmann events as it slowly approaches the center and source of the anomaly. At this time, the probe is approximately 93 light-years away from the center of SCP-6713-A. In the distance, attached what appears to be an exceptionally bright star emanating powerful gravitational waves that send massive ripples across space-time. On June 27, 2022, at 10:19 a.m. UTC, a moderately severe Boltzmann event is recorded by the SCP-S7 piercer that causes SCP-6713-A to transform into an inverted sphere full of fractals. Geometrically impossible astrolite, three-dimensional and higher-dimensional polytopes appear and disappear within minutes of each other. In the Heaven Piercer sensory instruments detected extreme shift in SCP-6713-A's Hume levels to 0.02. Though the probe is unaffected, it automatically shuts down cameras sections into the Boltzmann event out of precaution. No cognito hazards are reported. The event ends after exactly 28.6 minutes, permitting the Heaven Piercer to activate its camera feeds once more. The probe is now within 80 light-years of its destination. On June 29, 2022, at 6:28 p.m. UTC, SCP-S7 Piercer continues its trajectory towards the center of SCP-6713-A for the next several days, before it records yet another Boltzmann event in its vicinity. The void begins to fill up with iridescent balls of slime that randomly and rapidly flash between a series of imperceptible colors. The probe shuts down its cameras again, only to crash into numerous balls and shards of black glass that appear at random intervals, causing fragments of glass to fly everywhere in all directions. Mission Control is forced to decelerate the probe and wait out the Boltzmann event, sending a minor shockwave across deep space. This Boltzmann event ends in 2 hours, but is then immediately followed by another, a much more severe Boltzmann event. SCP-6713-A changes state again after Heaven Piercer resumes its course, this time reconfiguring itself into a purely linguistic semiotic cosmos. Thousands of both unrecognizable and recognizable thaumaturgic symbols, letters, and ciphers, hieroglyphics appear randomly and flicker from one symbol to another, or randomly burst into being random locations surrounding the probe, forming words and sometimes whole coherent sentences that disintegrate as quickly as they integrate. This reality created by SCP-6713-A is vaporized in 6.2 minutes. Note that approximately 1% of sentences in seen video footage were successfully translated by Foundation cryptographers, stating phrases like, "We're sorry, it's all our fault, please help us, redeem us, or save us." On July 1st, 2022, at 3:09 p.m. UTC, SCP-S7 Piercer is 50 light-years away from SCP-6713-B, now definitively confirmed to be the source of SCP-6713-A's anomalous properties. The probe continues to receive gravitational wave readings that grow gradually stronger and more intense the closer it travels to the center of the vacuum, born out of SCP-6713-B's binary black hole. Photographs taken of the probe clearly show the silhouette of an artificial dodecahedral object surrounded by a massive acceleration disk and severe distortion of space-time, causing extreme gravitational lensing due to the scattering of light coming from stars and galaxies directly behind the metastructure. This lensing causes the light behind SCP-6713-B to appear as an Einstein ring. On July 4th, 2022, at 5:34 a.m. UTC, visual contact with Heaven Piercer is lost for approximately 13 hours. The Foundation researchers are able to confirm its continued existence and operational status using radio signals and indirect sensory data to bring back indirect sensory data being sent back to Earth from the location of the probe. The probe's cameras during this segment of time only show a black screen, however, loud wailing, weeping, and screeching can be heard coming from seemingly all directions throughout the void. The echoes and screams grow progressively louder and louder until the Heaven Piercer begins to violently oscillate. Despite the presence of the strengthened reality anchors before the event abruptly ends at the 13-hour mark. A third Boltzmann event is theorized to have been the cause of the loss of Heaven Piercer's visual feed, though the conditions of the new reality the probe found itself in are unclear. It is believed by both Dr. Reed and Dr. Johnson that SCP-6713-A's most recent Boltzmann event created a purely oral, tonal, or auditory reality in which visual perception ceased to exist, though other researchers, such as senior researcher Dr. Yamana, think otherwise. With all due respect, Director, what Dr. Reed and Dr. Johnson have proposed is preposterous. If their hypothesis is true, our probe would have been vaporized into its constituent atoms a long time ago. What's really going on here is very simple. The new July 4th reality created by SCP-6713-A was a reality where light, as opposed to visual perception or optics as a branch of physics, no longer existed. It explains why we still knew Heaven Piercer was in one piece despite us not being able to physically see it. There wasn't any light for us to check around. For all intents and purposes, Heaven Piercer became a quasi-invisible black hole for the span of about 20 minutes. A quote from Dr. Yamada in a conversation with Site Director Briggs and Head of Research Dr. Carter. On July 5, 2022, at 1:45 p.m. UTC, SCP-Heaven Piercer arrived within 20 light-years of SCP-6713-B. More and more gravitational, temporal, and spatial anomalies are detected by the probe due to its close distance to the metastructure at the center of the vacuum. The probe once begins to oscillate due to its wormhole growing unstable, as if ever so slightly pulled towards SCP-6713-B. Due to gargantuan size, it gives the probe its own gravitational pull, exacerbated by its own binary black hole. At 11 p.m. UTC, the probe has come exactly within 12 light-years of its destination, begins to decelerate in preparation for its exit from the wormhole. The significant tensile stress on Heaven Piercer causes both its electronic equipment and its strengthened reality anchors to exhibit reduced functional capability, as it's slowly crushed by anomalous physical laws. In July 6, 2022, at 4 a.m. UTC, SCP-Heaven Piercer emerges from the second wormhole jump and comes within 8 light-years of SCP-6713-B, then 7, then 6, then 5. It continues to oscillate with greater and greater intensity as the onboard cameras blink on and off, sometimes blacking out for several minutes at a time. Some members of the O5 begin to doubt the durability of Heaven Piercer, as well as the ability to withstand the titanic forces being exuded by SCP-6713-B, while the others remain determined and steadfast. Photos taken from the probe at this time becoming increasingly blurry and murky, with possibly due to magnetic interference from the binary black hole system at the center of SCP-6713-B, which is itself at least 2 astronomical units in diameter. Heaven Piercer's strengthened reality anchors begin to malfunction. First, only very infrequently, then periodically, weakening the strength of the stabilizing Hume field. We fitted this probe with the toughest substances known to mankind and 3 reality anchors to boot. Either they or the probe became cheap. If this mission doesn't succeed, we have no choice but discontinue Phase 2 of the project. 04, 010, and 011 say we have to try something, because it's better if we than do nothing. I think that something should take the form of getting as many people off this reality as possible within the next century. We can't stop this thing from swallowing up our universe, so we might as well try the next best thing. Quote from the 06. On July 6, 2022, at 9:17 a.m. UTC, SCP-Heaven Piercer reaches a distance of 4 light-years away from SCP-6713-B. At 1:24 p.m. UTC, SCP-Heaven Piercer reaches a distance of 3.5 light-years from SCP-6713-B. The visual feed from the probe grows fuzzy as the auxiliary systems such as the spectrometer and other sensory equipment are forced offline. Internal computers report significant levels of external stress from the probe as the rising levels of gamma radiation from black holes inside SCP-6713-B. At 10:59 p.m., SCP-Heaven Piercer reaches a distance of 2 light-years from SCP-6713-B. Its strengthened reality anchors begin to fail, losing up to 70% of their original stabilizing capabilities. At least one of the probe's protruding antennae break off from its main body. Its wormhole drive, and by extension the communications array, also exhibit reduced functionality, now down by at least 65%. On July 7, 2022, at 3:30 a.m. UTC, SCP-Heaven Piercer comes within less than 1 light-year of SCP-6713-B, taking a small number of low-resolution images of the metastructure. Moments later, its camera feeds begin to display static and white noise, while its internal computers report Heaven Piercer has reached a critical state, is on the verge of total mechanical failure. Soon after, all strengthened reality anchors in the probe crash simultaneously while its propulsion systems short-circuit. A powerful explosion is detected while the probe is not long after, causing it to change direction and aimlessly drift towards SCP-6713-B, as it is pushed at an angle by a leak of exotic matter particles. O5 Command and Mission Control deduced from the few sensors remaining in operation on the probe that it is headed on a one-way collision course with the SCP-6713-B acceleration disk, should its trajectory remain unaltered. Eventually, contact can no longer be established with the probe once the aforementioned sensors finally shut down. The destruction of the Heaven Piercer at this point is all but assured. Most O5 members seeing these developments are left with the little option to declare Project Heaven Piercer a failure and order Mission Control to abort the exploration of SCP-6713. Addendum 6713.02 Point Terror Recurrence Event July 7, 2022 at 3:33 a.m. UTC, just as Mission Control is about to pull the plug on Heaven Piercer, Incident 6713-A2 occurs, the Point Terror Recurrence Event, much to the shock of the Foundation personnel still observing the probe's video logs, showing a black screen once again. At random intervals, Heaven Piercer's video feed jolts back to life as it continues to gradually float towards SCP-6713-B, though in its other Piercer's equipment remained dysfunctional. In the distance, SCP-6713-B can be seen in perfect clarity, its various markings on its dodecahedral shell is easily legible from a great distance. Detecting motion to its immediate right, however, Heaven Piercer automatically turns its camera towards the same direction. The resulting video feed reveals the presence of thousands of spacecraft of varying sizes and shapes, either in pieces or states of disrepair, alongside dozens of extraterrestrial entities resembling crustaceans drifting in the empty vacuum. Notably, these entities possess tri-radial or triatically symmetric body plans, 3 chelae with 3 claws rather than 2 chelae with 2 claws, and 3 eye stalks rather than 2. Unlike crustaceans on Earth, the entities, apparently in a state of hibernation, wake up from their slumber and notice the probe before immediately coalescing into a large swarm and approaching it, and seemingly in a rush to do so. The entities stop moving just in front of the probe and eventually carefully envelop it. 5 seconds later, Heaven Piercer's onboard computers began receiving several yottabytes of information that they were not designed to handle. To prevent a catastrophic data overflow error or to mitigate further damage to its internal electronic equipment, the Heaven Piercer probe uses its wormhole communications array, now back online, to automatically redirect the incoming data from its processing modules to ground-based computers on Earth in the form of compressed data packets. From there, they are uploaded into secure and encrypted offline data folders. Following this event, the alien entities release the Heaven Piercer from their clutches and look directly into its onboard cameras at close range. Heaven Piercer's cameras shut down and deploy their anti-cognito hazard program after identifying these entities as a potential threat. But an unexpected glitch in the probe software temporarily delays some of these anti-cognito hazard measures. As a result, all individuals viewing the alien entities, from some members of the O5 to personnel at Mission Control, are telepathically bombarded with images and messages into their minds, causing them to collapse out of mental exhaustion or break down into weeping and screaming fits. On one site, medics and operatives arrive on the scene a short time later, sedating and anesthetizing all affected personnel before bringing them into the emergency care. End expedition log. Approximately 4 hours after this event, affected personnel wake up one by one from their previous states and gradually assume normal baseline behavior. Some operatives awaken with minor headaches, but otherwise are in good physical health. Below is a transcript from a private conversation that took place between the O6 and O11 later that day. Notably, both of them are among the few O5 council members not completely defenseless against minor cognito hazards. Begin transcript July 7, 2022 at 8:08 p.m. UTC. Extraneous information has been edited out for clarity. O6, so it was just the 2 of us? O11, I'm afraid so. Everyone is now starting to recover from the cognito hazard they were exposed to, though the messages in their systems mean they'll be out of commission for a while. O6, did you see the messages? The ones beamed into our minds? O11, yes I did. They were disturbing to say the least. Seeing what those entities did to themselves, to the universe that they lived in, the regret, the shame and suffering, no wonder some people broke out into tears. They were trying to warn us, trying to protect us. O6, what about the probe? I heard it. O11, came back into our universe, yes, and a wormhole apparently created by these entities themselves, in a perfect condition too. We managed to retrieve it from low Earth orbit and bring it back to HQ for analysis. I'm still struggling to understand how exactly everything that we went down in mission control doesn't have enough data for this point. I think we got lucky, like astronomically and unbelievably lucky. So lucky that we just so happened to be in the right place at the right time against all odds. You get me? 06. Sort of. SCP-6713 is a probabilistic anomaly after all, where anything can happen inside it, no matter how insane. 11. But that's just it, 06. Anything can occur within the SCP-6713 even if the odds of that phenomenon occurring in our reality are extremely close to zero. That is to say, infinitesimally improbable. You might think I'm nuts for saying this, but I think the Heaven Piercer underwent yet another Boltzmann event, one that spontaneously reversed or decreased entropy in a large, though still local scale, causing all damage at the probe endured to be undone within mere moments. Ordo ab Chow. Nothing's confirmed as of yet, but that's my theory. 06. But that's against the laws of thermodynamics. That shouldn't be possible under our current understanding of physics in our universe, at least on a cosmic scale. 11. Yes, true, but that's our universe, 06, not the pocket reality within the SCP-6713. Over there, the laws of physics and even logic itself are in a constant state of flux. If there were to ever be a place that could be truly defined as random, as truly chaotic, that would be a region of space. That region of space would be it. And we just so happen to hit the goddamn jackpot. 06. At this point, I'm willing to accept anything. Your thoughts sound quite plausible, if not outlandish. Do you think that explains the aliens? They died by their own hand eons ago, only to come back to their non-existent superior statistical fluke. Memories from previous reality intact and all, so I guess the reversal of entropy affected this Boltzmann civilization too. 011. Could be either that or the pointer occurrence theorem in action, maybe even both phenomena at once. 06. I've heard of that theorem. If one that states it right, given an extremely long but still finite amount of time, any system will return to a similar state too, or exactly the same as their initial state. Reminds me of what Nietzsche said, that all of our reality is destined to repeat itself over and over in a cycle. 011. Correct, and it took billions if not trillions of years before the entities, from their perspective, to come back, to return to their initial state before the ultimate annihilation and then eons ago. Tragically, you remember what happened after them only 13.7 minutes later. 011. Don't remind me, 06. Being stretched and spaghettified across time and space is one of the worst ways to go. They had just enough time to communicate with us, to send our probe back to our reality and with relative ease as all hell broke loose. I still can't get over the streams in my head, hearing their consciousness once again be slowly ripped apart over this and distributed across space-time. There are few fates worse than being tortured for hundreds of millions, if not billions of years in the bubble of reality you created for yourself. A bubble inextricably bound with the collective consciousness of your species. There's a long pause before 06 speaks again. 06. So what do we do now? I suppose we can try Phase 2 of Project Heaven Piercer, but I don't think it's worth it. You saw what happened to Heaven Piercer. I still think we should prioritize taking off this doomed universe since there's clearly no stopping SCP-6713. Who knows? Perhaps the universe next door doesn't have as many anomalies or eldritch horrors waiting to destroy us. Unfortunately, our technology is limited to travel within our reality, not outside of it. And we only have so much time before that vacuum approaches our galaxy and destroys it. I don't think we're going to make it 011. 011. That's where you're on, 06. 06. What do you mean? 011. Remember the data the aliens sent us? The packets our ground computers picked up from Heaven Piercer? Well, researchers have been combing through all the information they found, everything from star charts, written messages, and schematics for engineering projects, to new mathematical equations. One of these equations apparently proves inter-universal travel is not only possible, but it's easily achievable. Though a practical working propulsion system capable of doing this was apparently too complicated for even SCP-6713 entities to create, at least in their stage of development. Perhaps they were wiped out just before they could build one of those things. 06. But there's still a chance for us to escape our fate? 011. A tiny but non-zero 106. Remember, even in our universe, nothing is truly impossible. If we start working hard now, we should have just enough time to escape our reality, our galaxy, and our universe before SCP-6713 swallows us up. 06. So there's no time to spare. We should alert the church that set in high talks in the Orthodox religion? 11. I don't know. And I'm not sure how they would react. If we could see SCP-5713 and all the shit that it spawned, they obviously could see it too. Some of them probably know or have already arrived at the truth, but have chosen not to acknowledge it, either out of fear of being persecuted for heresy or apostasy, or simply out of delusion. If there are extraterrestrials that recognize the situation we're all in, they're either long gone from this reality or preparing to leave us well in advance. It behooves us to follow suit. The end of time really are upon us. The end times really are upon us. Sorry, I got that wrong. 06. How will the Foundation maintain the veil through all this? At some point, someone's outside the Foundation is going to find out the truth and catch us with all our pants down. It's not a matter of if we'll be exposed, but when. 011. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. 06. Last I heard, the administrators expressed doubts about the continued feasibility of maintaining the policy of secrecy from the rest of the world, especially after Incident 5713A1. To be honest, I kind of agree with him. The Foundation can only do so much with all the resources we have. And as much as we like to think we have things under our control, the reality is that we often don't, at least some of the time. The world, as a wise man once said, is rudderless, drifting about with no captain of the ship or no clear destination. If the entities in SCP-6713 couldn't control their own creation or the events in their universe, how can we expect to do so in ours? Think about that. Some things are simply beyond our grasp, beyond our ability to understand. As much as we aspire to understand as much of reality as possible, reality itself may be too complex or intricate for us to ever truly comprehend. Gödel came to that implicit conclusion decades ago, when he published his incompleteness theorems. 06. Deep down I know you're right, 011, but I can't bring myself to accept it. I've heard enough philosophy and physics for one day. I'm going home to gulp down some brandy. You want some? End of transcript. That was an interview between 06 and 011, Foundation agents, I assume. Addendum 6713.03. Pride cometh before destruction. On July 9, 2022, Foundation researchers analyzing the information sent to data centers by the Heaven Piercer during its encounter with the SCP-6713 entities uncovered several data artifacts of indeterminate age, none of which were cognitohazardous. One of these artifacts appeared to be an image file depicting the cosmic microwave background, not of our present universe, but an apparent previous universe or iteration of reality that was originally home to the extraterrestrial entities within SCP-6713-A. After several hours of analysis, Dr. Reed determined that the image was not actually a random configuration of hot and cold spots in the temperature of the cosmos, but an artificially created data matrix in which binary code was encoded throughout the ordered alteration between cosmic hotspots and cold spots in the entity's home universe. Zeros are represented by cold spots, tiny regions of lower ambient temperature of the universe, while ones are represented by warmer spots of higher temperature. Upon making this discovery, Dr. Reed alerted senior researcher Dr. Yamada of its findings. Upon realizing the implications of the image, she alerted the head of research, Dr. Carter, who stared at the data matrix with a mixture of awe, surprise, and terror. The both of them soon had the file transferred and analyzed by a decoder decryption program, which, due to the image's large size, was a process that took many hours to complete. After over 9 hours of processing, the decoder finally finished transmitting the CMB image into letters and numbers. The result was a fragmented message addressed to seemingly all inhabitants of our current universe and possible future universes, followed by an exhaustive history of the entities that appeared before the Heaven Piercer inside SCP-6713-A. Below are the irrelevant pieces of the affirmation message reproduced for your viewing. Several words and phrases cannot be translated due to mild to moderate data or syntax corruption. This is the message. Begin message. To our beloved star children in the past, present, and future. We have tried to contact you for so long by various means, and now you have finally come. By the time you have read this message, we will already have been destroyed. For eons we have suffered and caused great this is indecipherable right here, to countless billions. But this is the price we pay for the mistakes we have made. The truth is that we only have ourselves to blame. Everything is our fault. Our fault, our fault, our fault. Forgive us, O star children, for we erred our ways and were fools to think we could become gods. Fools to think we could mimic the nameless creator in our quest to create the perfect world, one without suffering, without pain, without chaos. One that would last forever without entropy, that would protect all existence from the Boruto and remove the need for Rakmao. All we wanted to do was save everyone. By preserving life and order, we tried to preach our teachings across the 5 galaxies. We tried to reveal the truth to all, to give the galaxies a hope of a better world, one that we could create ourselves. But the Ordothon Church found out about us and called us irrelevant heretics, apostates, and non-believers. They cast us out, banished our species to the outer darkness where there were no stars, never to return. They threatened to kill us all for our abominable views, challenging their doctrines. At first, we accepted our punishment. We lived in the darkness for thousands of years, but our hatred and resentment for the Church grew over time, as did our desire for salvation. So we devised a great machine that helped create a new reality for us. We labored for many years in secret, united as one to accomplish our goal. We dreamt of safety, of paradise and ecstasy. We gave ourselves up to the machine, uploaded copies of our minds for it knew it was our new god. But then, just as the ultimate existence was within our grasp, something went wrong. Disagreements arose amongst our kind. Some people thought we were tampering with things we did not yet understand, that we were putting all of our reality in danger out of selfishness, pride, and arrogance. Others only grew more extreme in their beliefs and more devoted to our project than ever. Then the Great Schism occurred. Right as our machine neared completion, war broke out between factions. Half of our numbers fled the darkness and formed the Galactic Concordance, while the other half formed Order of the Final High Toth. The Concordance betrayed us. They tried to destroy our precious creation with a fleet of thousands of ships that came, armed with powerful weapons that could set worlds ablaze. A great battle took place, but we defended our holy machine and tore the fleets asunder. The blood we split was not for... I'm sorry, I can't read some of this. I'm going to be honest. I'll put an image of the actual text file on screen at some point. This is really fucking hard to read, so just give me patience. Or just, be patient. But for the machine, many perished in its name, either to protect it or to destroy it. Crushed by our forces, the Concordance retreated in humiliation and shame. The survivors of the battle fled to the 5 galaxies to recover. We tried to hunt them down, but some escaped our clutches. We were afraid of what the Church would do if they saw us again. For a time, peace had returned. We of the Final High Toth continued our sacred work, believing ourselves victorious and our enemies vanquished. We thought in our weakness and in glory that the Church had killed the rebels who rose up against us, but we were wrong. So wrong. The day soon came in which our work was finally complete. The machine, the most holy, most divine cosmic engine, was activated for the first time, and we celebrated with glee and rapture. Yet it was amidst our joy and happiness that the Concordance struck us blind, for they had been waiting for this moment all along. We discovered this truth too late, and fell slain as a result. It returned this time with 5,000 ships and legions of vessels from the Church and other nations. Indeed, they exposed us to the 5 galaxies without us knowing, defected to the other side in exchange to be spared from death. As such, we were ambushed. Unprepared for our enemy's arrival, our ships were annihilated one by one. Our defenses fell through, our numbers retreated inwards out of terror, closer and closer to our construct. Sensing defeat on the horizon, we out of the Order grew desperate. The High Techno Priest to vend and discuss what to do. But there were too many ships against us, and not enough time to think things through. Soon our foes had arrived near our great machine, as they surrounded us from all sides, prepared to eviscerate it from the heavens. The priests ordered the machine to create a new world for them and their consciousness, rather than surrender to the church. It was to be the perfect world, the best of all possible worlds. But as the machine was calibrating the settings and calculating all the universal variables, Contords injured our god out of fear and out of their desire for vengeance. The machine burst into flames and shards of metal began to fall and grow unstable. Now afraid of the thing we had created, we tried to stop the machine, tried to cancel its operation, but our attempts failed. Our fear soon gave way to terror and panic, regret and sorrow as we cried out in agony as the blinding light of the machine consumed all of us. Since that time, we have lived as our minds for eons, not in heaven but in hell. We have been forced to live in total chaos, only to die again and again and again each time a new world is created by the machine. Prison of our own design. We have sentenced our universe to eternal torment for all time, to absolute destruction from the creation of a new world and endless cycle. We have committed the greatest of all sins, and for that we were so sorry. Sorry for all that we have done, and yet we know deep down that no apology will be sufficient to heal or undo the pain we have. I can't read that. Weeping and anguish screaming of billions being torn apart by the force of the void in space and time. We are beyond redemption. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. There is still, however, a chance for you to escape our fate. The future is not even set in stone. You do not have to suffer in misery like we have for trillions of years. But you must act quickly. Time is running out. You must flee far from here, flee to another world. You must hurry before it is too late. The knowledge we have bestowed to you is a gift to you. From one star nation to another, use it wisely. Do not make the same mistake as us. It is fruitless to strive for perfection when the result is good luck and goodbye. The order of the final High Toth. End of message. Footnotes. Otherwise known as the giant void of the local hole, the KBC super void is a comparatively empty region of the universe devoid of stars or galaxies. Though it contains our Milky Way galaxy and the surrounding local group, our galaxy is several hundred million light years away from the center of this empty region. Recent observation by Foundation scientists have led them to conclude the anomaly's rate of expansion has accelerated exponentially over the past 50 million years, far faster than the rate of expansion in our present universe during its inflationary epoch. Should 1637's rate of expansion continue, should 6713's rate of expansion continue to accelerate without limit, the researchers theorize the outer bounds of the bubble of space-time will reach the edge of the Milky Way by the year 2130. Derived from the word aleatory, meaning random, meaning dependent on chance or randomness, meaning SCP-6713-B is capable of manipulating both reality and probability with the expanding area of SCP-6713-A. Mainstream physics in the standard model of define the Higgs boson as the elementary particle whose field gives mass to quarks and other subatomic particles, which is necessary for the formation of matter, and by extension life. Unlike other fields, Higgs field is not stable, but metastable, meaning it does not exist in the lowest possible energy state, which it could spontaneously decay into at any time by an extremely improbable quantum tunneling event or sufficient energy output, or energy input. Named after the German scientist Ludwig Boltzmann, who coined the concept of Boltzmann brain, a thought experiment which states that given enough time, a human brain with false memories can and will emerge spontaneously in a void through the random configuration of particles via quantum tunneling. Physicist Sean Carroll has expanded the concept into stars, planets, and even entire galaxies, all out of random chance. Bose-Einstein condensate, a state of matter in which bosons and particles occupy the lowest thermodynamically possible energy state, becoming waves of very little energy. Quark-gluon plasma is the opposite of a Bose-Einstein condensate, where particles occupy such a high energy state under extremely hot temperatures, which are so dense that even atomic bonds in the formation of matter are not possible. The fine structure constant. A dimensionless contact of the universe, a dimensionless physical constant of the universe that determines the strength of the interaction between electromagnetically charged and elementary particles. If this value were any higher or lower than approx 1 out of 137, life and matter would not form, and stellar fusion would not be possible. Wormhole drive. Microscopic comet-scale wormholes in the Planck scale. Not as they existed in the present moment, but they existed hundreds of millions of light years ago. Ordo ab chao. Out of chaos comes order, or order out of chaos in Latin. The binary code embedded within the CMB. This is the dominant theory we have thus far, but it's equally possible to the artificial CMB. It is equally possible this artificial CMB came from the same iteration of SCP-6713-A that spawned during the Pointerre recurrence event. The Heaven Piercer, after all, recorded a Hume level in the negative as it was being carried by the aliens that came into contact with. This would explain why the aliens were able to create a wormhole so easily and perhaps spontaneously, control the ambient temperature of SCP-6713-A to create the CMB image, and feed the information into the probe. So that was SCP-6713. For some reason, I barely see anyone actually mention this SCP, and I can't understand why. It's honestly one of the best articles I've read in the entire Foundation. I think it deserves a lot more attention given how interesting it is, to be honest. This video was a pain in the ass to make. It took me about 3 days to finish recording and editing this. And from the time of me recording this, I might not even be able to post it until tomorrow, possibly, just considering how many images and how big of a file this video is. I just want to let you guys know, I haven't made this official yet or confirmed it. I might be taking a brief hiatus from making YouTube videos, possibly maybe a week or two. I have classes starting on the 11th, and there's not really that much time left for me to be super invested in this, so just gonna put that out there. This took 3 days to make, and I've been going through some personal stuff. There's some things that are going on with me, things that are going on in my life that I don't want to touch on here, but I'll just let you know that I might be taking a break from making these videos because there's a lot of other stuff that I'm doing and that's going on right now. So just keep that in mind.